Remember, in mathematics, a fraction is a number that represents the part of a whole number. In order for a fraction to be considered simplified completely, the expression can't have any radicals in the denominator. In order to remove a radical from the denominator, we use a process called rationalizing the denominator. So if we notice in number 8, we have a square root 6 in our denominator. That means it is not simplified. In order to simplify this to make it a whole number, I'm going to multiply it by the square root of 6. Now, as long as I do that on top and bottom, I'm multiplying this fraction by 1. So now I have 2 square root 6 over the square root of 36, which is 2 square root 6 over 6. And 2 over 6 reduces to be 1 square root 6 over 3. Now that I have this whole number in this denominator, it is simplified. Now I just want to point out, we could actually skip this step here and just remember that square root 6 multiplied by square root 6 will always just make 6. So we don't have to show this step in the middle here when rationalizing the denominator. So on number 9, first I'm going to break this up to be square root 2 over square root 3. Now we don't like this answer because there's a radical in my denominator. So in order to rationalize that, I will multiply both my numerator and denominator by the square root of 3. So that becomes square root of 6 over 3, which is now in simplified form whole number in my denominator. Let's get on to some more elaborate ones. So first, I see that in this fraction, 56 over 12, they're both divisible by 2. So that leaves 28 over square root 6. So 28 I can simplify. That is square root 4 multiplied by square root 7 over square root 6. So I have 2 square root 7 over square root 6. Now that I've simplified, 6x. Almost forgot that. So now that I have simplified my perfect squares, I need to rationalize this denominator. Now what's in my radical is 6x, so I'm going to multiply by the square root of 6x on top and bottom. So that becomes 2 square root 42x all over 6x. So now don't forget 2 over 6 simplifies. So my final answer is 1 square root 42x all over 3x. And my denominator does not have a radical, so it is simplified. So number 11, let's break this down. I have square root x over square root 9, square root 2, square root y squared, square root y. So first, I'm just trying to simplify this first. So now I have square root x over 3y because I simplified these perfect squares. And what's left over in my radical is 2y. So now, in order to rationalize this denominator, I must multiply this here by square root of 2y on top and bottom. So now I have square root of 2xy in my numerator and 3y multiplied by 2y in my denominator. So that makes my final answer square root of 2xy over 6y squared. That is simplified because there are no radicals in my denominator.